Hi guys, Squirrel here, and in this video we're going to take a look at Asus's latest 49-inch super widescreen monitor. Behind it is my own triple screen setup, and I thought it'd be really cool to make a video where we look at what it's like to sim on single screen, on triple widescreen, and on single super widescreen. Talk about the pros and cons and what it's like and what it feels like to sim on this kind of setup. When Asus sent me this item, I actually thought have they sent me the wrong thing. I thought have they sent me a fridge? Have they sent me a wardrobe? No, they've actually sent me a monitor. The XG49V. It's a 49-inch curved monitor, equivalent to two 27-inch monitors in one unit. Let's unbox it. Okay, let's break the seal. This is the first time I've seen it as well, by the way. Right. We've got instructions, more instructions, don't care about them. A large power pack, box of goodies, blimey. Okay, we've got European plug. I actually don't think this particular demo comes with the UK plug. Looks like large brackets and display port and HDMI cables and power leads. 4 manuals. That's going to be the collar, I think. It goes on the back, I think, usually to cover up the screw points if you're not wall mounted. Then you've got the legs. It sits like that, and the monitor goes in there. It's quite a good design, this, because it has a short leg at the back, so it sits up against your wall or whatever behind it, but it has these really long legs to give you like the stability. So they're quite well designed, solid metal as well. Right, now to actually try and get the monitor out of this box. Giant piece of polystyrene. That's huge. This is almost a two-man operation, boy. And there she is. Wowzers. Look at the curve on that. That's insane. Can't wait to unwrap this. We're going to get this box out of the way and we'll carry on. Okay, I've unboxed it. I've removed the packaging apart from the cover. Let's take this thing off and have a look at it. Oh, wow. That is way more curved than I thought it would be. The actual, if you can see this, the actual curvature on the monitor is quite substantial. And the whole point of it is designed so that when you're sat there, the actual surface is always facing towards you. And it also reduces reflection and that kind of thing. That is a monster. I was not ready for this. This is huge. Let's see how this compares to what I've currently got. I've got my trusty tape measure, so we're going to just quickly check some of the specs on this thing. So height-wise, this comes in at 17 centimeters or just under 15 inches. And width-wise, it comes in edge to edge at about 120 centimeters or 47 inches. The 49 inches, of course, comes from the diagonal measurement, which is actually bang on 49 inches. In terms of the spec, this is like having two of my monitors in one go. So this is a 1920 by 1080 monitor. This is the same, twice the width. So it's 3840 by 1080 high, 144 Hertz. Add to that FreeSync support and HDR color. Sounds great, but what's it actually like to game with? So in a first-person game like Siege, I will not use all three monitors. I'll only use a single monitor. I guess there's a number of reasons for that, not least of which I don't feel like my eye is going to see everything, you know, on the extreme ends of these monitors. I'll probably see maybe a bit more than what I've got right now, so widescreen might work, but certainly, you know, nothing on the extremes of three monitors. I don't see anybody in esports, for example, you know, using three monitors when they go gaming. I think there's very good reasons for that. I tend to play FPS games at 144 Hertz, so, you know, I've had 60 Hertz monitors, and once you go to like 120, 144, you don't want to go back really. Of course, you need to have a graphics card that can drive that kind of frame rate. And I guess that's one of the advantages of only having a 1080 resolution is that it's less demanding on your graphics card at 144 Hz than say 1440 or even 4K. Like 4K at 144 Hz is, you know, you're talking like 2080 type card there. I just fired up Rainbow Six Siege, and on this widescreen monitor, it's hilarious. It's hilarious how much you can see. Just standing in the same spot that I was before, which is here, and I completely see the van. I can see this pillar and this pillar. This is on my 75 field of view, which is what I normally use for a single screen. It does feel, when you've got it on such a wide screen, if you look up and down, you can begin to feel the fisheye effect of 75 field of view, which you can't normally on a single monitor, but you can when you're on something this big. To actually game at this resolution is, I don't know what to say. I'd have to play it for a while. I'd have to play it for a while to see how I felt about it. It definitely is a game changer. I am sort of wondering as to why esports gamers don't play on something this big. There must be a very good reason for it, because surely there's an advantage here in terms of how much you can see. Just standing here, you've got, you know, just looking this way, you can still see into the kitchen area in case somebody tries to flank you, that kind of thing. So I've dialed the field of view right down to 60 field of view, and it's noticeable. I can't quite see past the edge of the van, but now when I move up and down, the kind of fisheye effect is much less noticeable. It just feels more comfortable. Distances feel a bit more accurate now. Kind of similar approach to what you have in racing when you mess about with the field of view. It just feels that much more natural to be on 60. I think I could definitely play it at this kind of widescreen aspect and this kind of field of view. I think I could feel comfortable playing like this. I'd say that once that field of view is died down, it feels pretty natural now. And it's very easy to adjust the extra real estate I have available without having to sort of look around quite so much. I can just as easily, you know, just glance over and see more things. Quite like it. If you've ever done any GA flying, you'll know that peripheral vision is really, really important. On my left is an airport, Southend Airport, but in order to view it, I have to grab hold of the mouse and look to the left, or I need to map a key to look to the left. In all cases, just trying to see what is off my left wing or off my right wing or everything in the cockpit becomes quite difficult. On a single screen, I can see the whole dash here, but not much else. On a widescreen monitor or a triple screen monitor, my peripheral vision is massively increased, and that becomes very, very important when you're turning onto base or turning onto final when you're coming into land. Not so much if you're instrument flying, but if you do any GA flying, the amount of peripheral vision you have is greatly affected by your monitor setup. So on a triple screen monitor, when you're flying, not only can you see the entire cockpit, but I can actually visibly see quite clearly out of my left window and out of my right window, probably at least 45 degrees in either direction, which gives so much more in terms of visibility. Obviously, you've got the bezels down here, but that's what a triple screen setup can give you when you're flying. So now when I'm flying a downwind leg, I can quite clearly see that I'm flying parallel to the runway, which makes the whole thing so much easier. I don't have to keep grabbing the mouse, looking around, I don't have to keep moving the camera left and right. I can just focus on flying. All that extra peripheral vision, although I'm focused on the runway, all that extra peripheral vision just makes it so much easier to get lined up. And I've not had to move the camera. But even now as I'm taxiing, I can see loads of stuff on the taxiway. Just makes life so much easier when you're sort of having to turn the aircraft around. I can see over here where the taxiway goes, and that really is like the power of just improving the aspect of what you can see, be it with 3 monitors or a super widescreen monitor. Also, if you do like visual flying, just VFR flying around and being able to look out the window and see the scenery is just, it's brilliant. So I've mounted the monitor in place of where my central monitor normally sits, and in the cockpit you've got a full clear view of the cockpit, great view outside. You do notice though that there isn't quite as much kind of visibility as there was with the triple screen, which is to be expected. This monitor is only equivalent to 2 of those 3 screens, so I've noticed I can't see this pillar on the right here, and there's a good chunk missing off my left side, but it's still a pretty reasonable amount of display. I reckon when I come into base I will have to sort of, you know, move the camera just a little bit to see what's going on, but not by a great deal. It's easily manageable. Certainly don't need to reach for the mouse and start looking 90 degrees. There's the airfield off the right side. So I've got really good visibility on that. Of course, the advantage that this monitor does have over the triple setup is this is a seamless image. I have no bevels in the way. And I've got to say, I rather like that. I like my triple screen setup, but I do like the fact that this is just one image. In actual fact, in terms of like my eyes, this kind of 49, I remember the XG35 was a 21:9 ratio monitor, which is your kind of standard cinema widescreen. This is a 32:9, so it's, you know, even wider than a normal cinema. But I have to say, it kind of feels like just the right width and just the right height to sit here and just have a great flight experience. I think they've got it bang on in terms of the sizing. I actually thought when I looked at that box that this monitor was way too big, but I kind of inclined to think that now it's actually the right size. So as before with the triple screen, I've got the airfield on my left side here, flying the runway heading, but I can still maintain eye contact with the airfield. Not quite as much, I've only got a little bit of it this time. It's not like way over here, but it's enough that I've not had to use the camera yet. So now we're on base leg, and I notice that I can't see the runway this time. I'm going to have to pan the camera very slightly. There it is. It's just gone off vision. So yeah, apart from a little bit of camera panning, just to check where the runway was, it wasn't bad. With the triple screen, I didn't need to do that. With this, just a little bit. With a single normal screen, you'd be doing it quite a lot. Now, as with the triple, I have good visibility on the taxiway, so that I've not lost that aspect at all. I think you don't really miss that extra bit though. It's more about what's going on here, and without those bevels in the way, you've just got this kind of immersion factor. It's such a good view, and you don't miss that much. That's only really appropriate when you're coming into land, and like I say, you can just tilt the camera a bit. But just in terms of this widescreen view of the world, it's really nice. Now when it comes to a driving game such as Euro Truck or a racing game like iRacing, peripheral vision becomes pretty important. When I'm turning a corner, I need to be able to see where I'm going. In real life, if you're in a vehicle, you naturally sort of look left and look right as you're actually making a turn. But in a game like this, the only way to do it is to physically move the camera. Now you can get other technologies like head tracking or eye tracking, but without that kind of thing, you need to basically move the camera to the right and straighten it off like that, because otherwise you just cannot see beyond the edges of your monitor. Now that's true for a single monitor setup. If we was to do a triple monitor setup, then we'll see so much further, but as it stands on a single monitor, bearing in mind a lot of people have a single monitor setup, at the moment in this field of view I can't even see the full extent of my mirror, and I certainly can't see the right side of my cap. Now, I can get away with something like Track IR in Eurotruck as a way of moving my camera around without physically having to do it. When it comes to racing though, it's a bit of a different proposition. The problem with racing is you really need to be able to see other cars on the tracks. You need to be able to see the apex of a bend that you're approaching, and everything is happening so quickly. Track IR tends not to get used that much when it comes to iRacing. Of course, head tracking does get used in VR, but that's a different proposition. But in terms of having a monitor, Track IR is not that popular in racing. It's not something I ever used. But triple monitors or widescreen monitors and that kind of thing do give you an advantage when it comes to racing. Now, of course, there's an endless discussion about field of view in racing games. The compensation for being able to see on the track is that you just expand your field of view. The problem is, in a racing game, it distorts distance and speed. There are actually calculators out there which calculate the field of view that you should have based on how far you are from your screen and how wide your screen is. But when it comes to most people, they tend to just put the field of view up so that they can see more. What they don't realise is they're making it a little bit harder for themselves, because the expanded field of view means everything's coming at you so much more quickly, and distances seem compressed at a distance and expanded as they get nearer to you. With a widescreen monitor, of course, you can keep the accurate field of view that you need and yet still have good peripheral vision, which is something I don't have at the moment on a single monitor. Classic case in point right there of field of view. As you go through a toll booth, that Renault was moving over. Couldn't see him unless I'm able to actually move the camera and look over there to look at him. I've put Eurotruck into triple screen mode, and well, the difference is significant. I no longer have to move my camera. I can see where I'm going. I can see where I'm turning. Any trucks appear alongside me, I can see them. Anybody pulls out on me, I can see them. If this is a racing game, I'll be able to see cars down the left side of me, cars down the right side of me. As I'm making a turn, I'll be able to judge the apex. That's the benefit of a triple screen setup, is you really can get an end-to-end view. The downside with a triple screen setup, of course, is you get these bezels in between. Now, these are not the smallest bevel monitors you can get, but the XG27s are pretty slim bezel. But even with triple screen monitors like this, which is perfectly good for racing, I can't see down the road. So as I'm crossing at a junction like this, I still have to move the camera. The width is just not quite enough. But apart from, you know, that kind of just turning at a junction there, most of the time, I can just drive and enjoy myself. So I made that complete turn then, without needing to move the camera at all. So traffic light turns are fine, roundabouts are fine. It's only when you stop at a junction you need to look down the road. That's the only time that you need to move the camera. Don't get me wrong, triple screen driving in Eurotruck is fantastically enjoyable. But just think about the requirements of this. I've had to buy 3 monitors. I've had to wall mount 3 monitors. And my graphics card has to have at least 3 outputs to drive these 3 monitors. If I was to go for a single widescreen monitor, I get 1 monitor, 1 output cable, and no bezels. So, although this offers me more vision, there is a certain amount of inconvenience involved in a triple screen setup. So, on the super widescreen, the XG49, first thing I can tell is you can see the right hand pillar of the truck. You can also see all of the left mirror and beyond it, so visibility is pretty good. Obviously, pulling out of a junction like this, I'm never going to see everything, so I still need to sort of look left before I pull out. But apart from that, it's pretty good. And again, just like in the flight sim, there's no bezels, so it's completely seamless. Right, let's see how we get on with turning. So I've lost the road now, but I'm beginning my turn, and then I can see down the road. So I don't need to move the camera in order to make a junction turn. Now, for a driving game like Eurotruck, you don't really notice much difference between a super widescreen and a triple screen, really, in terms of your needs, as in you still have to look left and right with the camera like this when you want to pull out of say a garage or a petrol station, something like that. Looking 90 degrees left or right is never really going to be solved by a monitor like this, or even triple screens. It's just a fact that you have to get around. But for all other kinds of driving, for just turning at junctions or just general day-to-day driving, triple screen or this is absolutely superb. Compared to like a single monitor, if you drive on a single monitor then you play the game like this, you really won't want to go back to a single monitor, because it's like driving with a wheel and then going back to not driving without a wheel. It just such is a game changer in terms of your visibility and your appreciation of the landscape and your situational awareness, that you don't want to go back to a single monitor. You know, it actually feels like real driving. It's so much more enjoyable. So we've seen what it's like to sim with this monitor and with a triple screen monitor and a single monitor. We've also taken a look at what it's like to FPS game. Which is the best option for you? What should you go for? The answer to that really lies in what you feel you want to use it for, and whether your refresh rate is more important, whether your resolution is more important, whether you want the flexibility of a triple screen monitor, or you just like to have a single monitor with no bezels. And of course, budget has to play a part in all of this. Now this monitor behind me, the single monitors that I use, they're 27-inch panels. A single 27-inch panel is a perfectly good gaming experience. It's a nice widescreen setup, and there's a large variety of those panels available. You can go 24-inch, 27-inch, you can go even bigger. You can go for 1080 resolution, you can go for 1440, even 4K if that's what you want to go for. Now, having said that, something like a single panel, this super widescreen monitor, there aren't many of these available on the market. They're a bit of a niche product, and they're also quite expensive, so if budget is a problem, this may not even be the solution for you, because it is quite expensive. If you go for a triple screen setup, you can of course choose whether to go for 3 24-inch panels or 3 27-inch panels. You can go curved, you can go flat, and again you can choose, do I want 1080 or do I want 1440? I wouldn't advise 3 4K monitors. I think your graphics card won't really forgive you for that, but you know, 1080 and 1440 is perfectly fine for a triple setup. Then again, there's things like, do the bezels bother you? Are you going to wall mount this? Are you going to put them on stands? Like, what's your desk space like? If you're going for a simple solution, then a single wide panel, wall mounted or just on a stand, is a really nice solution. If you want triples, you're going to have to get involved in either 3 stands, which, you know, they tend to move around a little bit, or wall mount them, and then you've got to be pretty accurate about mounting them to make sure they're seamlessly tied together. So there is some complexity in a triple screen setup. As for me and my preference, well, I'm kind of constrained because I YouTube and stream, so I need to record videos and stream 1920 by 1080 because that's what most people expect and that's what most people watch on. I tend to use my side monitors more for information panels, OBS, all that kind of stuff, and not actually to extend my gaming desktop, which is what you might use it for. If I didn't have to do that, I would probably go for a single super wide panel like this. It is a gaming joy. The sheer visibility, the lack of bevel, the immersion you get from it, but they're not cheap, so you've got to, you know, accept the fact that this is going to cost you more money than going for 3 monitors. So really, there's a lot of variables here, and your own choice is going to be down to you, but I hope, you know, you've seen the kind of pros and cons in these kind of monitor setups. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at the various monitor options available for simmers today, and whether you decide to go for a single screen, super wide screen, or a triple screen layout, I hope you feel a little bit more informed about the pros and cons of the various setups. As for me, well, I'm going to enjoy a little bit more trucking in widescreen. Take care, guys. Happy simming. I like that. I actually like that. It's like this clunky triple with a split, and this is just like, oh, what a view. What a view. Damn.